Well, good evening, folks. I would like to introduce myself to you. I am Hank Monk, and I am a stage driver for the Wells and Fargo Freight Service. I do a route between Placerville and Virginia City. Now, I started driving stage when I was about 15 years old. I always liked horses, and like I said, I started driving stage when I was about 15, and I worked my way out to California, and once again, I am a stage driver between Placerville and Virginia City. Now, being a stage driver, you meet many interesting people and you have some interesting experiences. Now, if I may borrow a few more moments of your time, I would like to tell you about a story, an experience that happened to me. I had pulled out of Virginia City, and I was going across a flat, and I came to, I believe it's the Geiger Grade, and I was getting ready to go up the hill. And you know, before you go up the hill, you got to let your horses rest for a minute so they have the energy to get out. You don't want to run them up the hill. So I stopped, let the horses blow for a minute. As I'm sitting there looking about the scenery, as I'm looking up the hill, I noticed some movement up a little ways up. And I was kind of curious. I thought, well, that might be a bear or that might be a mountain lion. So I better check that out because I really don't want to have any encounter with any bears or mountain lions. So I pulled out my spyglass and I looked up. And you know what? By gum and by golly, there was a man up there. And I looked again to make sure I knew what I was seeing. Sure enough. And you know what? It appeared that he was hiding behind a tree. And as I looked again, sure enough, he'd step out from behind that tree and look around a bit and then jump back behind the tree again. And I thought, you know what? That feller's up to no good. He's a road agent or a stage robber. And you know what? He's going to rob my stage. Well, I couldn't allow that. So I began to cast about in my mind as to what I was going to do about this. And I came up with an idea. I reached under my seat and I pulled out my bottle of medicinal whiskey. And I poured it about my head, thinking that if he thought I was drunk, he'd leave me alone and just go after the passengers. Now, before you think I'm a bad stage driver, let me finish my tale. I did that. I poured that whiskey about my head, and I let the horses have their head, and they trotted on up the hill. And sure enough, when we got up next to that guy, he stepped right out in the road and stopped my stage and began to rob my passengers. Well, as I thought, he didn't pay any attention to me because he thought I was drunk. But when he had his back to me, I just reached out with I reached under my seat and got a lead pipe and cocked him upside the head and knocked him out just as cold as that rock there on the ground. Well, you know, those passengers were right grateful to me. They thanked me profusely for saving their gold and their jewels. And I told them I appreciated their gratefulness. But I told them, I said, you know, that stage robber doing that, I used my last bit of whiskey. And you know what? Those people were really fine people. You know what they did? They bought me 2 bottles of whiskey. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time.